Let's talk herpes again. Something that I actually get a lot is that people feel as if I shouldn't share about my herpes status, and that is something that I should keep to myself or I shouldn't share with the internet. And so, for those people, this video might not be for you. But actually, it actually might be for you because I want to discuss why I share my herpes status online and why I think it is important. When people say that I am oversharing, I like to say that I am humanizing. I feel like herpes is one of those things that we hear a lot about. There's a lot of jokes out there. Before I even contracted herpes, all that I knew about herpes was that it was the gift that keeps on giving and that some people's genitals look like Nestle Crunch bars, which, let me just say, I don't know where that came about because out of the 15, well, it's almost been 15 years. Out of the almost 15 years of me having herpes, never has my moose knuckles looked like a Nestle Crunch bar. So, yeah, that is definitely one of those things out there that is over exaggerated or, you know, not everybody experiences that. But anywho, the point is that I like to humanize genital herpes because statistics say 1 out of every 4 people has herpes. Yet, there's not too many people talking about herpes. So when I contracted herpes 15 years ago, I felt alone. I felt nasty. I felt ashamed. And as much as I tried to seek out more information about genital herpes, all I would ever find would be articles or, sex studies and things of that nature. Rarely did I ever find people talking about it in video format, and let alone somebody who looked like me. So I wanted to be that person that stands in the gap between a person who is just now learning that they have genital herpes and how to continue on with their life with having genital herpes. I tried to unalive myself when I first found out that I had genital herpes, and I had so many years where I felt so depressed and I felt ashamed and I felt like nobody was ever going to want me. And if I could go back 15 years and meet me when I first found out that I had it, there is so much I would tell myself to not worry about. All of the fears that I had, all of those feelings of feeling, not attractive anymore or feeling less than or feeling dirty, like that was nothing but lies. But it took me a long time to learn that. So my hope and my goal is that I can be that for someone now when they're first learning that they have genital herpes. I want to be that voice that lets them know that this is not your end. You have so much more in store, and just because you now have a lifelong STD, that does not mean that you do not deserve the very best in life. Still, whatever it is that you want in life, you can still receive it, you can still have it. You just now have a friend that's going to come along with you. And so that is why I share so openly about me having genital herpes, because I would never want anyone to go through the years that I went through, struggling with self-acceptance and struggling to still feel worthy and worth something. I gave my body away so freely because I was like, well, I have to. I have to do this because now I have this stain on me. So who's going to want me? Who's going to want to wait till marriage with me because I have genital herpes? And that's not so. You have genital herpes. Genital herpes does not have you. It's just a small, minor part of you. But we blow it up, and I get it because I did the same thing, but we blow it up to be this thing that is way larger than it needs to be in your life. So when people say that I am oversharing, maybe this video and my videos are not for you. My videos are to spread awareness for those who do not have genital herpes, or those who may not even be aware that they have genital herpes, because genital herpes isn't a part of the 10 panel STD. I think it's 10. I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to lie to you all, but genital herpes is not one of the STDs that doctors and providers test for when you go do a health screening. Whenever you go get a STD or STI screening, genital herpes is not one of those things that they regularly test for. If you want to get a screening for genital herpes, or even oral herpes, which a lot of people are aware of, those are cold sores. But you know, if you wasn't aware, cold sores is a form of herpes. It is the HSV1, whereas genital herpes is referred to as HSV2. So if you wanted to get testing done for genital herpes or oral herpes, you would have to specifically ask your provider to test for that, because they're not testing that when they do the chlamydia, the gonorrhea, the trichomona. I think it's trichomonas, either trichomona or trichomonas, and syphilis and HIV. Those are typically the ones that they will search for, and sometimes they'll even do UTIs or yeast infections. But aside from that, herpes is not something that they're testing for, and the reason why they don't do it is because so it's one of those things that they don't test for. So that is what my videos are for, is to also spread awareness. Just because you are not showing symptoms of having herpes, you actually could have herpes. It's very hard to even figure out who gave you herpes sometimes, because your symptoms are like undetected. There are some people who never show signs of having herpes. They literally never have an outbreak. They literally never have any of the onset symptoms, which are kind of like flu-like symptoms when they first get it. And sometimes they go their whole life not even knowing that they have it. Herpes is one of those things where I don't think it is talked about enough in a serious manner. Like, I think most people have heard about herpes and, you know, have heard the joke of, oh, it's the gift that keeps on giving. But I don't think people have really become aware and knowledgeable about how easily herpes is spread and how widespreading it is out here. I know right now a lot of people are talking about HIV because there has been an uptick in HIV cases, especially in Atlanta and Houston and places like that. So I do believe people are becoming more and more proactive about their sexual health. But I think herpes is something that also needs to be in that conversation. Yes, it's not as, you know, detrimental to the body as HIV usually is. I'm not saying that herpes doesn't have any side effects that affect your overall body, but for the most part, it usually doesn't. It's in very rare cases that genital herpes will have a major impact on you physically. But HIV, AIDS, I think we're more aware of just how deadly that can be. And I know they have made huge strides with HIV and AIDS medication compared to like the 80s and the 90s, but it is still something that, you know, we want to try not to contract. Like, even with herpes, I tell people all the time, like, I would never wish herpes on a person, and it's not because it has affected my physical life in a extreme way, but for the mental toll, the emotional toll it has taken on me. Literally, it has taken years for me to get to a place where, you know, I can look in the mirror and I feel comfortable and I feel confident in myself. And, you know, there are still times, I don't want anyone to think just because I can openly share like this that I don't still struggle at times with, you know, letting new people know. Like, even that is still something I have told so many people, y'all. So many people. But, you know, there are still times when there's a little bit of fear inside, like, oh, okay, now this is someone new I have to tell and I have to share it with, and how are they going to take it and how are they going to respond? But, you know, you just got to push through that fear. Like, I have learned that fear is something that, for the most part will probably stay with us throughout our life. There's no way you can completely remove fear. And if you have completely removed fear, I would love to meet you. I would love to hear how and, your story and what it took for you to overcome that. But most people are not going to go the rest of their lives without ever having an encounter with fear again. So I don't want anyone to ever think that just because you have had it or I have had it for a decade and a half that I still don't have those moments of like, oh, how am I going to share this? Like, how is this person going to respond to me, letting them know about my status? But I will say, the more that you do it, the more confident you feel in overcoming that fear. And also, you get to a point where you just have to accept that if someone doesn't respond positively about you having herpes, that has nothing to do with you. That just means that they are not meant for you. They're not meant to go further on your journey at this moment in time. And it doesn't mean that they won't ever come around, because I have had people where I initially told them and, the response wasn't the greatest, but then after some time they came back around and, it was like, hey, okay, I'm ready to try this. So, just because you get rejection or you get a no, that doesn't mean it's a no forever or you're never going to find anyone. It's just they may not be the person for you, or they may not be the person for you right now. So I just wanted to share why I am so open and candid about my herpes status, because I do, at the end of the day, I want to help that young girl or even that young woman that first learns that they have genital herpes and they are looking for someone who looks like them, who has been through a similar journey as them and have made it to the other side and can say, you know what, it really doesn't change much. It doesn't really affect much about your life. And there's still so many people out there who are going to love you and embrace you, herpes and all. Prospering property.